What's up, folks? This is Rockmyworld, episode 13, Birds of a Feather. I'm your host, JC Owens, as always. Now, hopefully you've all been paying attention to these files that have been released recently of a certain Epstein McEfrey, we'll call him. Yeah, can't be too careful these days. The AI will flag you just for using his name half the time. But if y'all have been paying attention, you will see that many of the things I've been saying over the years have been vindicated. As I told you, I used to be heavy into drugs and, the things that go along with that, and I've hung out with a lot of these people from the entertainment industry. I won't name no names to keep privacy like privacy. I try not to bust anybody out that's not doing evil anyway. Straight evil. The fact of the matter is, you know, these people are focused on some pretty dark stuff, as those files, suggest. And, yeah, we got to do all the allegedlys here, but, y'all remember when I told you that you have to pay attention to who people hang out with. I'm always used to say birds of a feather flock together, and I mean, it was true back in my day when I was doing all my dirt. I had a line, you know, people asked me to cross that line and I walked away. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people make that consideration and they say, well, these people say they'll protect me. That's the way to fame and fortune. Why not? Right? There's always a subset who are willing to go that little extra mile. And as those files show, like many people in Hollywood, in the music industry, all throughout the entertainment industry moonlight as drug dealers and escorts, we will call it. High-end escorts for powerful people all over the world. You can see people going to dinner with, people who own giant department stores in the UK, for instance. Or you might see them entertaining a sheik from the Middle East who happens to own a big oil company. They do this for many reasons. Not only are they asked to do this by corporations, but they're also asked to do these kinds of things by the U.S. government. Why? Well, because it gets you close to very important people that they might want, control over. They might want to hear what they have to say. All these kinds of things. I'm sure you can put it together. Most of you are extremely smart. I know this. Y'all can figure it out. But either way, it all comes back to things like the Royal Institute for International Affairs, the Royal Society, the Round Table Group, the Ivy League. All these things are just cutouts for MI6 and military intelligence here in the U.S. You got always remember, CIA, MI6 have always acted as one entity. Right? The British intelligence and American intelligence, since at least the 1800s, has been one in the same. But officially, since World War I and World War II, they've been locked together, lockstep all the way. Whatever they do, we do, and vice versa. And the whole, Epstein thing and the mess that all of these famous people have gotten themselves caught up in. These are the kinds of things that I try to warn all of you away from. Don't make the same kind of mistakes that everybody else does. Pay very close attention to who the people that you're hanging out with also hang out with. Pay attention to the books they read and the kinds of parties they have and the symbols they use in their artwork. Right? All this stuff gives you insight into who you're dealing with. Just because someone acts like they're your friend out here doesn't mean they are. Many of them can be like these people. You can wind up bumping into all kinds of folks. And now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that Phil Collins and Mick Jagger and some of these other folks definitely did awful things to young people, right? I'm just saying that where there's evil people, like those that hang around with them are probably also into some of the same evil stuff. At the very least, things like espionage, money laundering, trying to hide money from the taxes, and all these kind of things. You know, the it's like I was telling you before. It's not necessarily that everyone is the most evil, like demonic person ever out here in the entertainment industry. I'm still in it, and I'm a Christian these days. Orthodox Christian specifically. I feel the need to differentiate us from all the rest because a lot of the rest are indeed cutouts for intelligence agencies, as I've said before. So, even the Orthodox Church has been infiltrated in certain places, like in Ukraine. But either way, you know, as I was saying, these files kind of blow a lot of this stuff open. But keep in mind, not all of them have been released. There's still a lot of people being protected. These people go in stages. See, first you'll have people like Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, whatever you want to call him, being thrown under the bus. They'll give you people like him and a few others to try and shut the public up and get us to go away. Like, go on now, that we gave you a few, and if that doesn't work, they'll throw a few more under the bus. They'll let it go up a little higher, up the totem pole, up the ladder, whatever you want to say. The fact of the matter is, like, that's still not all of them. We're not even close to the top. All the people they've given you so far are just the runners, the lower level people that are the front face of all of this globalist plot, right? Those of you who are familiar with the streams I did a few years back, well, you will remember I predicted a lot of this stuff. I told you Donald Trump was going to do the things he's doing. I told you he was going to push digital ID. He was going to go for the North American Union and the one world government. I told you he was going to do these things. He's tied up with Freemasonry just like I used to be. And that you can't trust anything he promises you. Elon Musk is connected to the technocracy movement. His grandfather was one of the founding members, and he has been working diligently to build the technocratic dystopia, like, worldwide. His Starlink system, X, all of this stuff is going to work together with social credit scores and the digital ID and all this kind of stuff in order to lock us into a digital prison. And they get their hooks in you so many different ways. So many different ways. I've had people reach out to me before and say, hey, we can sponsor you. It's like, well, but what does that mean, right? That sponsorship means that they're going to take issue with some of the things I say. They'll say, oh, well, we don't like that. Oh, well, like, that's one of our friends. You can't say that about one of our friends. And this is the way the game works. Friends and who you know are everything. That will decide, what, branches of this industry you're allowed to go into. It will decide, like, the kinds of things you get tied up in, both legal and not. Just please be very careful out here, and, don't just, don't just work with just any old body. And, especially those who pop up and act like they're going to open every door for you and make everything, super easy, make you huge, super rich and famous. Like, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. There's something in there that they're going to want from you. Nothing is free. Nothing. Make sure you are full aware of what it is that you're willing to do and what they want you to do before you take any deals. Any deals. Because I assure you, as soon as, like, Jeffrey was taken out, they already had somebody else filling his spot. Just like when I quit, they already had somebody else to sling the drugs. They already had somebody else in mind. There's always somebody else willing to step into your place. Always. Don't ever forget that. And the fact of the matter is, you can't just take out one of them and stop it. It's just not going to happen. You need to move on the entire group, and they are all over the world. As one of my community posts said a couple of days ago, there are at least 300 families behind this plot. 300 families that you never hear about. You never hear these names. It goes all the way back to the Venetian banking families and further. We're talking about the Renaissance here, people. The Renaissance. Which is also important to remember what the Renaissance actually was. The Renaissance was the revival of ancient pagan and mystery school ideas and ways of thinking. Up to that point, the Middle Ages had ran on the philosophy of Aristotle, who was the student of Plato and corrected a lot of Plato's mistakes. Well, the Enlightenment and the Renaissance, in large part, were the revival of the work of Plato and all of the philosophers from the pagan world, which is why the modern era is is so infatuated with a lot of these pagan ideas. You'll see it everywhere, right? Gnosticism is rampant. You will see that almost every movie you can imagine, from the Marvel Universe on, plays on these ideas of apotheosis and man becoming a god through technology and all these kind of things. Spider-Man gets bit by a radioactive spider. Superman is an alien from another planet who gains his power from what? The sun. Well, these are sun worshippers, folks. They worship the sun, the black sun, the green light of Saturn, as they say. Ever wonder why, Hollywood has, an award called the Saturn Award? Ever wonder why, the Oscar is a Templar holding a sword? Oscar, it means God spear. I would know. I am the descendant of an Oscar. Right? Oscar, God spear. Right? These are, these are the secrets of our country, of Hollywood, of our intelligence agencies. These things are all tied together like a giant tapestry. If you pull one thread, you can't help but pull on all the others too. They're tied together that tight. And as we go through the Epstein files and see more and more of this stuff, you will see more and more people who are tied up in it. It's almost impossible to run with that crew and not get tied up in some of their dirt. And you'll notice a lot of them were quote-unquote knights, right? They were knights in service to the British Crown, right? They all have Sir in front of their name. Yeah, you can find pictures of, the king and queen wearing Templar garb, just like I used to. You can find all this stuff. It's out there for you to see. And, I'm just here to tell you, folks, in order to be part of those kinds of orders, you have to think in a very specific way and believe in a very specific way. Yeah, they'll say you have to believe in only one God, but that's because the one God you're supposed to believe in is the God inside of you and them, right? That Christ consciousness stuff, right? You can become Christ yourself type deal. You'll see it repeated over and over in the philosophy of Hollywood, in the movies that they put out, the music that gets put out. You will see these things over and over and over again. And they're telling you who they are. Listen to them. Either way, we'll cut it off there, folks. You have a good one. Much love. Rock on. And remember, watch who you hang out with. It matters.